My name is Tamika White, and I have notes here. Like I have, just so you know, if you see my eyes going all over the place, I have my teleprompter app, and I have like my notes and things, so it's going to get juicy. So my name is Tamika White, and I am a fashion entrepreneur, a media personality, and now an author. And I'll get back to fashion entrepreneur later because people are now, it's relatively a new term, and people are kind of like, what does that mean? It really is an entrepreneur in fashion. But, you know, I started this journey as a stock girl in Ann Taylor in high school. And now, years later, here I am, a fashion entrepreneur and a fashion business veteran and someone who's been in the business in front of and behind the camera for over 20 years now. And where I am now, not only in my career, but also just in my journey of life, is that I want to share all my expertise with the next group of image makers, fashion lovers, stylists, people that love fashion and have a passion for fashion. And we know that now more than ever, fashion touches like every single touch point of our life. And there was a time before where there was like one fly person in high school or one teacher that dressed real nice, right? And now everybody has lashes. I make that joke. I'm like, now like little kids have lashes, and you're like, and little kids are dressed like mini adults. So we know that fashion really has infiltrated, I say, every single area of our life, which also just speaks to the value of it, the importance of it. Tonight, I'm going to teach you how to get into the fashion industry with your current skills. If you logged on, it's because you do love fashion and you are interested in figuring out, or you have some curiosity as to how you can get into the fashion industry. And the truth is, everyone can be in the fashion business, and you don't have to be a designer. And there are non-creative jobs in the overall global industry. And the industry is a $3 trillion global industry. When I say that number, when we were prepping for this, my assistant was like, wow. I'm like, yeah. It's 1 in 6 people work in the fashion industry in some way, shape, or form. That's massive. You know, when you think someone who works in the fashion industry, and you think Anna Wintour or June Ambrose, but the truth is, you can be sitting in New York or in LA, you know, driving next to someone who just has on a plaid shirt and jeans, but they could be a pattern maker or a sewer or a cutter or a draper, and they are all just as vital as the designer and the stylist and the fashion editor. So there's so many jobs in the fashion industry, which leads me to the book that I wrote called Careers in the Fashion Industry. And part of the reason I wrote it was because I get asked so many times, how do I get in the fashion industry? Or actually more often than not, it's, I love fashion, I want to be in the fashion industry, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what I want to do. And the truth is that translates to, I don't know how to be in the fashion industry with my current skills, because I'm not a designer, or I'm not a stylist, or I'm not, one of the more popular jobs. And that's why I wrote the book. It really was spawned and birthed out of a frequently asked question. But I also wanted to take it further, because the truth is the book is great if you have some foundational fashion education or vocational training in the fashion industry, because it does break it down in sub-industry. And it also uses a lot of technical skills or fashion jargon. But if you're not in the fashion industry and you're like a newbie and you're an HR executive or you're an accountant, a lot of these words feel foreign to you. So it still doesn't really like rip the veil off and explain, oh, how can I, though, me, the person that lives in Iowa, who, you know, like I said, is an accountant, but I love fashion and I'm not going to move to New York, you know, at 38 with 2 kids, but I want to be in the fashion industry and I need another stream of revenue. Which leads me to part 2 of why I found this course to be the timeliness of it valuable and why I wanted to do it. Because we all know, we all know it's important, obviously, to have a stream of revenue, but now, and especially with the current state of this climate in this country and the government shutdown and the impending second government shutdown, we all know now everyone is saying, I have articles from Forbes and I'll put those up on my site, where now there are more people starting businesses now than ever. And yes, there's certainly a nod to technology, which has ripped the barriers to access off. So pretty much anyone with a phone can start an online business and have access to information as to how to do it. But now it's necessary. Like before it felt like a hobby or, oh, that's for someone who's not as focused, but now people realize I really need that second income. I need to know that that good government job may not be that good when the government starts arguing. Or, it's like when, like when your family starts fussing and you're like, wait a minute, I still have to eat. So I thought the timeliness was really poignant. And I wanted to host the webinar because there are massive amounts of people that love fashion. And you can love fashion and not, like I said, not be a designer. You can love fashion and love looking nice and love looking at magazines and putting clothes together and not really understanding that that's a true skill and you can monetize it. So over the past 20 years, I have been in front of and behind the camera, and I've done many jobs. I've been a model and a brand spokesperson, a brand ambassador, a sales rep, a road rep. I've been a merchandiser, a lookbook stylist. I've been a creative director for a magazine. I've developed marketing plans. I've been a trade show rep. I've built booths at trade shows. I've been a global brand spokesperson. So I pretty much, in terms of on the marketing and sales side and merchandising, have run the gamut and done it all. And that also leads me to helping you understand how the fashion industry is not as linear as a lot of industries. So you can work in a lot of different areas, unlike the medical field where, if you go to the cardiologist and your dentist walks in and you're just like, wait a minute, you're only supposed to be working up here. Like you should put that stethoscope away. The medical field is like much more linear, but fashion is a much more broader scape. And so you really can have one skill and you can be a visual merchandiser, but you could also be someone who's great at buying. So you can work across disciplines. And so that's one of the things that allows you to have so many options when you're working in the fashion industry. So enough about me. Let's talk about you guys. If you're here, you are here because you are at the very least interested in fashion, but I want you to really ask, and not in this moment, again, something you should write down and sit with, like, where do you want to be in 24 months? That's the question. Do you need another revenue stream, or is it a hobby, or is it something that you seriously want to commit to? And lastly, what are you really willing to do to have the life that you dream of? And I don't expect any of you guys to answer that question in this moment. And for me, truthfully, it's been ongoing because it changes at times when we go through different seasons in life. But I think it's important when you start investigating and you have curiosity about other ways to create income for yourself and making changes in your life, that these are the 3 questions you ask. But the most important question, which is the question that I ask myself every day, and sometimes even several times a day, and on days like today where I've been preparing to share my heart and soul with people that I don't know, and to share my experiences to help sow into someone else's life, the biggest question I ask is, who do I need to be in order to reach my goals? So I think that's really it. It's like, do I need to not be a procrastinator? Do I need to be someone who does answer emails in a timely amount of time? Do I need to be someone who is not as reactionary and really listens? Do I need to be someone who commits more and really does it? Do I need to be someone who makes a list every day and time blocks all the activities I have to do to make sure things get done? Who do you need to be to create the life that you want? And I tie that into fashion, but you can apply that wherever. But I offer you that gem because that's something that I ask myself, especially when I want to sleep late, when I don't want to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Those are the times where I'm like, okay, well, who do I need to be in order, So now let's get down to the nitty gritty. So the fashion industry, and I broke it down in my book. We could break it down even further, but the fashion industry, I broke it down into sub-industries. But let's start with, how do I make this How do I get into full screen mode? 1 second. Okay. So these are the 5 things we'll talk about tonight. We will address how to get into the fashion industry. 1 is to research the industry. 2 is to assess yourself, not the business, but yourself. And that's where we talk about mindset and who you need to be, etc. Number 3 is determine your creative skills, right? So we have to figure out what our actual creative skills are, but then also like what are our technical or disciplinary skills, and I'll get into that. 4 is develop your talent. And that's whatever it is. And yeah, therein lies the work. That's the homework. On the days, again, when we want to sleep late or when we'd rather be at Sunday brunch, when it's like, you know what, I should be writing. So we'll get to that. And number 5 is market yourself. Now, for some of us, that's really easy or looks really easy, but the key to marketing is consistency and content. And we'll get to that as well. And again, these will be in your handout that I will email you. But let's get started with researching the industry, right? So that's number 1. And that's where I talk in the book about the sub-industries in the fashion industry, right? So I break them down into, let me see, if you guys want to take notes, give me a second. I just want to make sure I open it up. I want to make sure I give them to you in order. Give me a second and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. All right, my Wi-Fi is a little slow. 1 second. It's coming, it's coming. It's coming, it's coming. Oh, you don't want this. This is the thing about technology. Right, okay. So it's coming. So the best way to start is like researching the industry. And obviously, shameless plug, careers in the fashion industry is a great place to start. I have it in paperback. I also have it in an ebook, which I suggest. I think they're both great. I love the ebook, even for nights like tonight, or just being able to have it. I want you guys to use it as a reference, but I also want you to understand the business. So that's why, again, I want to talk about some of the sub-industry. But again, research, I mean, obviously the obvious place to start is Google, right? But there are trade publications that are specific to the fashion industry. There are fashion industry websites, etc. When I say research, though, I really mean figure out like your job qualifications and what you want to do within that industry. Because I'll use myself as an example. There are many things in the fashion industry I can do. There are a lot of things I don't want to do. You know, there are things that are tedious and things that are, I'm like, that's really time consuming. I don't know if that's going to put me toward my bigger goal of doing, even though I can do it. So it is important to not only understand what, and we'll get into that in self-assessment, what your job qualifications are, but it's also important, especially at this point in life, is to know what you like to do. And I think that that is major, really getting clear and owning it. Like, you know what? I don't like doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Being able to own, oh, you know what, I like that, but you know what, I don't like doing that. Or there are times where you're like, you know what, I do like doing that mindless menial task of like sewing on labels. Because you know what, I have a day job and I have to make a lot of decisions over there. And I don't want to have to, in my second job or in this second revenue stream, think about and figure things out. So again, that self-assessment is important because it allows you to understand, you know, what you like. So, and what you like to do and what you don't like to do. So we'll break it down there, in terms of researching the industry into the 5 sub-industries. And these are industries that so rewind. So in the fashion biz, we use the term business and industry interchangeably. So sometimes you hear someone say, oh, she's in the fashion business. Oh, she's in the fashion industry. Technically, by definition, the fashion business is the business of buying and selling fashion goods on a fashion calendar. Technically, the fashion industry is the global industry of production, selling, and everything that entails fashion. So, like someone dyeing goods, silk in India is considered necessarily like more like the fashion industry. But like Anna Wintour is considered someone in the fashion business. Again, the terms are used interchangeably, but they are specific. So again, you want to know what industry, what you're referring to. I will sometimes use them interchangeably. And if you have a question, let me know. Also, if I say something and you don't know what I'm talking about, I think you can type it in, right? So you're typing and we'll do questions at the end. But the first thing is I wanted to start with production, right? So it's the first sub-industry in the fashion industry. And people don't really understand fashion production, which is fine. I said this on the Karen Hunter show. Most people don't understand the music business. They don't understand points on an album or who's the publisher and who really wrote the song and why this person sued the Black Eyed Peas because it sounded like Marvin Gaye or this little bit of a hook sounded like this. People don't really understand that, and that's fine. But when you want to get into this business, is that an alarm? Oh, when you want to get into this business, you do want to start to learn not only the vocabulary, but what the different jobs are. So production has a myriad of jobs. And again, you guys will get this when you stay to the end. You guys will get this PDF. But just to talk about a few of the jobs, there's pattern makers, which is a technical job, graders, sewers, cutters, production managers. And listen, I had a friend who bought my book. She came to my book signing, and she texted me, and she was like, I am not even in fashion. She's a speech therapist, and she said, I didn't even know that a pattern grader existed. She said, I didn't even realize that there was someone's job to make a pattern go from size 2 to size 22, or from extra small to triple XL. And I explained to her, not only is that someone's job, pays very well. It's a very well paid job. It's also a skill that's learned, and it is a vital job in the fashion industry because we need someone to size our clothes. They are also well paid, so when you are a designer, or if designing is the industry you want to be in, you need to know that because your grader is worth their weight in gold. So these are the things you need to know, because when you're building your team, you need to know, oh, I need this person, I need that person, etc. Obviously, for purposes of tonight, I'm not going to go through every definition. Again, you'll get those, but I do want to just talk about the different sub-industries. So after production, there is design, and a lot of people are familiar with design, and there are a lot of jobs underneath the design umbrella. Where are we on time? Okay, 7:30. So I want to move on, but you'll get these and you can look them up. Also, like I said, you can grab the book and it will give you the definitions for each of these jobs. There's also wholesale jobs. Now, wholesale jobs, a wholesaler is the person that actually sells the clothes to the consumer, which are you or I. And that's an entirely different industry that has its own math. Yes, it has its own mathematical equations. It's called retail math. And it is, again, another industry that has to be not only respected, but is necessary, because even though these are all sub-industries, they work in tandem. So the production industry needs the design industry needs the marketing portion of the fashion industry, the retail side, which is another sub-industry. I'm sure you're all most familiar with the retail side. They all work together on a certain calendar. So even though you may be in one of those, you still have to be aware of all of them, which is why when we get to self-assessment, I talk about if you're ready or thinking about being in the fashion industry, you have to be able to assess yourself and say, am I a real linear thinker? Like, do I do better with one project doing one thing? Or am I really good at like my brain multitasking? Am I knowing what's selling this season and ready to ship next season and looking at trends for 2021? Because it takes a certain kind of thinking to be able to think that way. And if you don't think that way, it doesn't mean you can't be in the business. It just means that the marketing or the retail side may not be the side for you. It might be, like I said, an accountant or HR, etc. There's also a lot of behind the scenes job, and especially now with technology, there are jobs that are that fall under the pre-existing sub-industries. So like blogging, which falls under marketing and media, trend experts, which have always been around, but now they're becoming more and more to the forefront. And that's for people, that's a great job. It's actually really fun. And it's one of the other things that I do that I truly enjoy. I was just at a trade show Sunday, and I love like walking around and seeing it. I have a knack for it, not tooting my own horn at all, but just being really honest. It's one of the things that's made me successful in this business. I have a real knack for looking at something and saying that's going to be hot, or one season, no one's going to like that, or not that colorway, or add this to that, or that trend is, and I really enjoy that. And that's actually a job in the fashion industry that's become more popular. So that excites me. Style experts, which is, again, something else that I do that also allows you to really show your style, which the definition of style, in my opinion, is the curation of merchandise. It's really just the way you put it together. It's not labels. I'm not a big like, oh, it's stylish because it's $1,000. I feel like style is about the way you actually curate things and put them together. So those are some of those jobs that are, and these are the things you would want to research under the first part of your research. So I just want to make sure here that I didn't forget anything and that we list those, because I know I told you guys to bring notes. So I just want to make sure we have them all before we move on, because I know time is flying. Where are we on time, G? Okay. So let me just recap that. Okay, so to recap, we're actually going to do within your research, the 6 sub-industries, again, as a review: design, production, wholesale, retail, merchandising and marketing, fashion, media, and promotions. So in terms of researching, those are the sub-industries you want to research, because the jobs that are within those industries will help you figure out where you fit. You'll figure out from your skill set, like, oh, you know what, I sew really well. Or you know what, I always could sew. I haven't sewn in years. I need to pull my machine out because I really can sew. Then you know that's more under design or production. And later, I'm going to do another webinar, but later we'll get to, again, how to really narrow that down based on your skill set. Okay, so number 2 is self-assessment. I could be here all night, but self-assessment, I break this down. And when I was teaching at FIT, I taught this a lot, and this was really great because this was for seniors that were going out into the world, the fashion world, to really help them figure out who they are once they graduate, right? Because who they came in as high school seniors and who they've developed into during their college years is much different. So once they get ready to go into the fashion world, the real world, they're required, and we talk about doing a self-assessment. And it's something that I took away. And anyone's in HR, any kind of human resource position, you understand that these are also always important skills. I'm going to give you the 4 self-assessment areas. Again, you will get the handout. I won't read it word for word, but personality, right? So those are your individual traits, what motivates you, and what your needs are and your attitude. So for instance, if you're someone who works really well in an environment where you're kind of given a project and everyone leaves you alone, you need to know that, because you're not going to do well in an environment where you're being micromanaged. That doesn't work for you. So you need to know that. There's nothing wrong with it, but you need to know, you know what? I can't have you standing over my shoulder because I don't produce well like that. Again, you need to know that, because when you're looking for your career in this industry, these are questions you can ask potential clients or customers. And listen, it doesn't even mean that you need to ask someone who's going to be like your boss, because the truth is, as an entrepreneur, and I tell people this all the time, you have infinitely that many bosses. So it makes me laugh when people say, oh, you're an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work for myself. That's not true. You work for every time that email opens. I have to be, I have infinitely that much responsibility. So it doesn't take away from it, but that's why I have to know who I am. Because if I have a client or a customer that has a personality where they're much more of a micromanager, that's not going to work for me. And again, the beauty though of being an entrepreneur is I do get to choose that. But again, I have to know that. So you go in with the awareness. So that's number one, under your self-assessment. Number two are your skills and aptitudes, right? So that's your learned behavior, which is a skill, and your aptitude is your natural talent. So your learned behavior could be, oh, I'm an accountant. And I gave this example. I made a joke of this example in my Instagram live. But your learned behavior could be, oh, you learned how to be an accountant. But your natural talent could be like, gosh, she's a damn good sewer. And it's your natural talent that you can help say, oh, that's another revenue stream, even though you didn't necessarily perfect it or haven't focused on it because you've been making money with your learned behavior. So that's also important to assess. Number three, and I touched on this already previously, your interests, right? So your likes and your dislikes. And that's so important to know what you enjoy doing and also what you don't like doing. You know, I have things, again, like I said, that I'm good at. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like doing that. I'm really, 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 really good at sales. But when it comes to a lot of the management of sales and the micromanaging of sales, at this point in my life, I used to love it. At this point in my life, I'm like, you know what? I don't like doing that. But I needed to be okay with that. And it took some work. But again, knowing and owning like what you enjoy doing. This will really help you narrow down what you can do in the fashion industry to create a revenue stream. Because remember, you also have to be committed to this. So if you don't like doing it from the gate, you're not going to commit to this. 3 months in, you're going to be like, I can't. When you're going to dread when your phone vibrates, and we don't want that. So, okay, and number four are values. And values have always been important, but now we live in an environment, we live in a society and a culture that's always talking about community and values and what you stand for. It's really important to know that because you have to stand for your values. I'll use Chick-fil-A as a really good example. I was watching something on CBS Sunday Morning, which this is how I know I'm getting older because I could never watch that show. Now I live for it. They have these amazing stories on Sundays, and they were talking about how, you know, people are really giving Chick-fil-A so much backlash about their stand, their value, their Christian values. And then they asked, I think it was like Trina Braxton, and she's like, it's not gonna stop me from eating a chicken sandwich. She's like, but I understand it. Oh, you know what? I lied. I was not watching CBS this morning. I was watching TMZ. Wait, I tried to act like I was super educated. I was watching TMZ. And they stopped her at the airport. And I thought what she said was really important because she was saying, you know, she has her own values and her own perspective about what, you know, their Christian values are about some things, but she understood that. So again, like I said, as a business, and especially now because everyone puts everything on social media and people look at that before they even reach out to you. So be clear about your values, right? So those are the 4 self-assessment areas: personality, skills and aptitudes, interests, and values. It informs your decision-making because by the time, I mean, it will inform everything you do. That website you're about to put up, it'll inform everything you put on social media. You know what your values are. And then in your pamphlet, in your PDF I'm gonna send you, it has like this long, can you guys see that? It has these long list of questions. Oh yeah, you guys are getting some homework. Like really, this is really about sitting with yourself. Am I detail oriented or am I big picture? I'm big picture, right? If it wasn't for Germania, but I surround myself with people that are more detail oriented, like Virgos for one thing, but just people that are like about details because I'm big picture. So when I create a team, right? Because when you're building your business, you want to surround yourself with people that complement you and support you where you're not as strong. I have people around me that are like, oh, wait, that was a typo. And I'm like, oh, okay, because I had so many ideas. I was just typing so fast. Are you a problem solver? Are you a strong negotiator? Do you ask questions? Are you someone who's not afraid to ask questions? Because that's important. Are you a self-starter? Or do you have a strong work ethic, or do you go with your feelings when it's time to work? Again, no judgment here, just questions you really should ask yourself. Can you handle multiple projects at once, or are you a linear thinker? You know, and everyone's always talking about multitasking, and yes, it is important to multitask, but it's also important to be able to know when you have to juggle and you've got, like, you know, it's like cooking Thanksgiving. You can't just be making the greens, or else that's all you got. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to get the mac and cheese prepped. What's happening over here with the Cornish hens? You know what I mean? It's like, are you a multitasker, or are you the person they call just to clean the greens because they know that's all you can do? So that kind of thinking of questions you should ask yourself. How about this one? Do you enjoy working in a fast-paced environment? Because fashion is unforgiving and it moves. And if you're someone that likes, you know, stability and things to move a little slower, then there's an area of the industry that you have to find that's going to move on the pace that with you are comfortable. So again, those are questions under the self-assessment. Okay, so now we're going to move into number 3, right? Number 3, which is determine your skill set, right? And your dominant skill set. And I touched on this also in the video, but I think it's also important to really, once you do this, and this is after your self-assessment, right? You want to ask yourself, what do I like to do, or that I'm really good at? And I actually just said, or you want to ask yourself, what am I really good at and like to do? And I know that's like, okay, that's not a big deal. Yeah, it is. Because you know what? A lot of people go their whole lives in jobs that they hate because they never ask themselves if they like to do it. And 20-something, 30-something pension retirement party, and they're sitting there like, and I hated this job. And so I offer it to you. Ask yourself, do I really, what is that skill? Is it that, you know what, I really do like accounting, but you know what? I don't want to do accounting for a widget company. I'd like to count watches. Or I would like to work in a fashion industry or something that's more creative. Do I like planning? Strategizing and planning is an amazing skill, and every business needs it. Are you a trend spotter? Are you good at merchandising, curating looks? Do you take jewelry and you can just put it together and like, wow, what is it that your friends say about you when you get dressed, or when you dress your daughter, or when you write? You're like, wow, you write really well. Or what is the response that you get? This is where you start to really hone in and determine creatively, or your skill set that's dominant for you. And I'm going to be teaching another webinar and a course later, but we'll really drill down into those things to really help you figure out which one of those skills in the fashion industry will help you fit in one of the sub-industries in the fashion business. Also, am I a good organizer? Do I organize the family reunion or the 4th of July? Am I always organizing it? That's a dominant skill. It may not be something you're actively using in your current workplace, but it's a dominant skill. And again, it's something that you can use to get into the fashion industry, right? Oh, and I always highlight this because often when we're sitting with this, and especially as creatives, right, in the creative industry, you'll find that you're multidisciplinary. And like I said, like I'm a trend spotter, and I can do merchandising, but I can also model. So you will find as a creative, we can be, and I hate this term, but I'm going to use it now, we can be like all over the place. Let's call it multidisciplinary. Let's not judge it, because I feel like all over the place sounds judgmental and critical and negative. Multidisciplinary supports the fact that that's just who we are. So you can find as a creative that you're multidisciplinary, but you want to start by focusing on one talent and create the foundation for your personal brand and how you're going to market yourself to get into the fashion industry with that one talent. Again, I'll get into this in a subsequent webinar. And you're going to get this, but I just want to drill down and talk about this a little bit more, because these skills allow you to excel if you focus on one particular job. And we'll talk about those skill sets because there are 3: knowledge-based, portable, and personal traits. Again, all that's going to be in this amazing, this is pretty good, I have to say, if I say so myself. Okay. Number 4, because it's 7:41, is developing your talent, right? For For those of us that this is a second or third career or another revenue, therein lies the work, right? Because you know what? At 7:30, 8 o'clock, we're tired and we do want to watch Real Housewives of New Jersey. And on Sunday at 4 after church or after brunch or whatever, you know what? I want to kick my feet up because I know at 8 o'clock that Monday dread is going to start kicking in and I don't want to have to turn my brain on and do work. Remember at the beginning, at the top of the hour, where I talked about who do you have to be to have the life you want or to fulfill the dream or your goal? This is when that questioning comes in, where you start saying, who do I have to be? So I have to be the woman that at 4 o'clock on Sunday doesn't get to kick her feet up with her man and watch the football game, or that doesn't get to on Friday night meet the girls and go to Applebee's or whatever we do every Friday. Now Friday nights are the nights that I plan and strategize or read. So again, this is where the developing of your talent in this portion of preparing yourself and figuring out how you can be successful in the fashion industry is really valuable, especially because this industry is chock full of talent. It's like any artist-driven industry, like the music business. Like, you can't be lazy vocally. You know what I mean? Like, yes, people still have vocal coaches and acting coaches. Nicole Kidman still gets an acting coach. Halle Berry still auditions. Yeah. So in the creative field, we just don't get to. We don't get to a place where we just have to get to kick our feet up and it works. We have to constantly develop our talent. And so I know we've heard this, but it's true, practice. So if you're a writer, write. If you're a sewer, sew. If you're a draper, drape. If you're a jewelry maker, make jewelry. But you have to do it. And you have to time block and say on Sundays from 3 to 5, I make jewelry. And we'll start to see how you can really hone your skills. But then there are obviously other ways to do it. There's education, right? So there's always classes you can take just to support that. Targeted interning, which is what I call it, which means working in an environment often for free or for barter, where you can learn from someone who's further along in the same discipline that you're interested in getting into. Also assisting. And assisting used to have such a negative connotation. I think that being an assistant in any situation is such a strong job, because the truth is you're supporting. And support is sexy, let me tell you, okay? And vital, okay? Because none of us can do it alone. And so whenever you see a successful person, trust that they have had assistance from financial to time-wise, to resource-wise, to planning-wise, to strategy-wise, to implementation-wise. So we change our perspective around assisting. You can say, oh, you know what? My friend owns a store. Maybe on Saturday afternoons, I can assist her and I can go in and learn customer service because I'm really good with people. And I can start my own customer service support agency where I support all these online businesses that are opening up at a rapid pace, because everyone wants to be in the fashion business and open a drop shipping store or an online store, but everyone's at work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and no one has time to deal with their customers. That's a good idea. That just came in my head. And I just blessed somebody. Hello, slap me high five, because somebody just got a blessing. I just blessed somebody with a job idea. But my point is, if you say, oh, okay, so Saturdays from 3 to 4, 3 to 7, that's what I do, and I'm going to do that. You give yourself a beginning and the end. I'm going to do that from February to May to the spring, just so you can learn. It would allow you to, again, develop your talent. But in addition to developing your skills, you want to grow in other areas that are vital in the fashion industry. And I know people think fashion, oh, you look nice. It's such a business. You have no idea. Communication, huge in the fashion industry. And we can sit here all night and talk about all the wrong things, H&M with the shirt with the monkey, and all the wrong things that people have done and communicated or miscommunicated to different cultures. Or communication's huge, because communication in fashion is visual, verbal, nonverbal marketing, because it's all visual. So you're constantly on every level and every touch point communicating. So the communication skills are huge. Cross-cultural communication, negotiating, problem solving, blah, 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 networking. We get into all that's in this wonderful PDF you're gonna get. And then last but not least is market your talent. And I talked about that a little bit again at the top of the hour, but this is really just the creating the awareness of who you are, right? And branding is a whole other thing. And I love branding, but I also can't stand that it's such a buzzword. Everyone's a brand and everyone's branding and but really the definition of branding and marketing are interconnected, but they're also separate activities. And again, that's something I can be here all night, but branding falls under marketing, as does fashion shows, which again, a lot of people don't understand that that's a marketing tool, an expensive one as well. But under marketing your talent, there are things you need to know how to do, like create a website. You can market your talent by blogging, your Pinterest board, which is really relatively simple, networking, socializing, collaborating. Collaborating is the new black. You know, again, collaborating with your friend who owns a store that on Saturdays you assist because you're interested in this customer service business that you're going to create. So you go in on Saturday afternoons when her staff is running around because that's the busiest day of the week, and you help offer customer service. But, wow, this idea is getting good. I might need this idea for myself. But this is how we think, you know, we need to collaborate with other existing businesses to strengthen and develop our skills. Again, all of this is in your PDF, but those are the 5 ways that you can, the 5-step process of breaking into the fashion industry. And all of them we can drill down on more, but I want to get to some other parts of the webinar before it gets too late. I'm not going to keep you on it. Again, like I said, everyone that's logged on will get this PDF. And you can look through it again and go through it with details. But I did want to talk about some other things before I opened up for questions. So we talked about the sub-industries, right? Now the next thing I want to talk about in the fashion industry, and I'm gonna have to speed up because I'm looking at the time, but I want to talk about like how the fashion business thinks. Right? And this is really important because in order to get into an industry, you want to know like the sensibility of that industry. The fashion industry thinks in a very specific mindset, which really is branding. It's a very visual thinking. It's a very fast-paced type of thinking. And when I say how it thinks, I mean, how do people within the industry think, right? And not only is it a creative type of thinking, it's also a multidisciplinary type of thinking. It is, I want to, without spending too much time, I just want to broach this subject. And you know what I'll do? I'll do another webinar on this because this is really deep and I want to get to some other things. But the reason why it's important to understand how people in the business think is because it will need to be how you start to think. And if you're coming from an industry outside of the fashion industry, you'll need to know that in order to be successful within it. I promise you we'll do something else. I will drill down on that a little more. And actually, there was a great article on Forbes 2 days ago that I posted on my Facebook page talking about how the thinking of the fashion industry is now infiltrating how most industries are thinking because of technology, because things happen so fast. Well, the fashion industry, we've been moving like this forever. So this quick get information and everyone sees it and everyone wants it and now we're on to the next. This has been the way the fashion industry has always moved. And now other industries, because of technology and the speed to which we get information has increased, it's now they're catching up to the way the fashion industry thinks. So that's actually, I'm going to email you guys also the link to that article when I send you the PDF, because it's actually a really, really good article. Mindset shift. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and we touched on it at the top of the hour. But again, the fashion industry, and I tell people this whenever I do speaking engagements, is probably one of the most unforgiving, relentless, quickest moving industries in the world. And it requires, not to scare you, it's just what it is. It's fine. So is technology. But it does require a lot of commitment. It's not easy, which is fine. It's just know it going in. Sacrifice and consistency. And the importance here is the consistency. So again, that ties into self-assessment, because if you have a life that you already have a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of things on your plate, or you really don't have 3 hours on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, you have to consider that, and then maybe it's a plan like, you know what, I'm going to stretch this out to the last quarter of the year, because that's when I can honestly commit and be consistent to developing my talent so that I can create another revenue stream using my passion for fashion. But these are, again, honest conversations that we have to have with ourselves. And then lastly, tonight, I want to touch on, before I leave that topic, I do want to talk about just a life transformed, right? Because I know I said it takes commitment, it's not easy, it's sacrifice, it requires consistency, blah, blah, blah. But all those things are just factors, just things on the list that are required. Doesn't mean it's not doable. If fashion is something you truly love and enjoy and it brings you joy, you can have a business or be in the fashion business. You absolutely can do it. And I say that because I want people not only to know that it's doable, it's also important that you fulfill that. Like I talked about a little bit, I congratulated Sharon at the top of the call and I posted something today about Iris Apfel. She's 97 years old. She got a modeling contract. If that's not motivating, she's 97 years old. I know her. She walks with a walker. She's 97, and she has a lot of the same physical experiences that most 97-year-old people have. She's got a modeling contract. That's all I'm going to say. So use that, understand that it's doable. You can do it. When I wanted to be in fashion, people didn't even understand. They were like, what are you going to do with a degree in fashion? Like, how do you make money in fashion if you're not a designer or you're not a buyer? I didn't know how. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I remember when I met Diane von Furstenberg, that was one of the first things she said. She said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I knew I wanted to make women look pretty. And sometimes that's all it takes, is knowing that that's what you want to do. And I always knew in my heart, even when other people and when the world looked at fashion as trivial or futile, I knew it wasn't. I knew that it was important that when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do better. Like when you look good, there are days where I feel like crap and I put on red lipstick and I'm like, oh, you know what? I got this. Or red nails, because I'm like, oh, you know what? Think about how different you feel when you get that manicure. And you're like, okay, what's next? I can do it all. So there's a real correlation to looking good. And I'm not talking about materialism, and I'm not talking about, first world problems. I'm talking about genuinely finding the joy in what gives you fulfillment. And for a lot of women, we have to know, yeah, I do love fashion, and unapologetically. And I had to live in that space for a long time because, like I said, people for years were like, okay, you have a degree in fashion and you're going to do what? Or, oh, you're in the fashion business. Oh, you're just in the fashion business. My son's a dentist. Those kind of things. And I remember, oh, you still doing the fashion thing? I'm like, are you still doing the doctor thing? You know what I mean? Like it was, so I offer it to you, own it. It's okay to be in fashion. And I finally am glad that we live in a society that's finally giving everyone permission, which in a way I feel okay about it. In a way I feel like it's always been okay, but that's another conversation. But enjoying looking good, which makes you feel good, beautifying your surroundings, helping other people feel good about the way they look is fulfilling. And there's nothing wrong with it. And it's even better when you can make another revenue stream from it. Okay. So it's the joy from it is unmatched. And I just want to share that with you. If that's any motivation, I don't know who needs to hear that, but it's okay to say, I want to be in fashion. So I give you that permission slip. Okay. And the last thing, and I know we talked about it, marketing yourself. And before we get off, and I'll open up to questions, just to drill down on that a little bit, and I'm just making sure I'm looking at my notes, I'm not missing anything. It's about finding your niche. And like I said, for most people, this is the part that will probably take the most getting used to, because again, here's the work. First of all, you have to find your tribe, right? So let's go back to the sewer. Like if you are a sewer and that's how you're going to get into the fashion industry, you got to find your tribe of sewers, or you have to find a complementary community of people that need your talent. That's work. That's marketing yourself. Like, okay, well, where do the sewers hang out on Tuesdays? Like, I mean, I wish it was that easy. But again, there are resources, and in my next webinar, I'll talk about that. But it's really important you have to find like where your tribe is or your complementary community. You have to go where the people love your services. And I'm just going to go here. Listen, I know we love our cousins and our family. They're not going to make us rich, okay? And we have to leave sometimes our family and our friends and what's familiar and go somewhere else to find the people and the community that are going to support the things that we are seeking. And that's a church sermon, but I'm going to leave that right there. But it's so vital and it's so important because our family is great. But again, and let's rewind to some of the self-assessment. We have to get clear about, putting some boundaries, and especially when we already have a life with a lot of things that require our time. We got to get real disciplined about our time. We really don't have the luxury of like hanging around our family members that may or may not support. And when I say support, I don't mean put us down. They may not have the tools or the education or the skill set or just the access to the information to help elevate where we're going. Truth is, we don't have time for that because life is now. Life is now. And again, going back to who do you need to be to manifest this dream, you need to be the person that makes that kind of sacrifice. Not always. I didn't say you couldn't come over for Thanksgiving. I just said you might have to make some kind of shifts and changes. But I digress. Marketing yourself, finding your tribe, right? Finding your community, and also getting really clear about it. And that again goes back to the self-assessment, developing your talents, because you can be multidisciplinary, but maybe you do want to just focus right now on sewing. Or maybe you do just want to focus on that customer service business. Or maybe you know what? You want to start a legal consulting firm and you want to consult young fashion entrepreneurs. And what you do is at a quarter of the price that most people charge, you do all of their contracts. And you're thinking, how does that make money? Well, first of all, every fashion company that sells merchandise or buys merchandise signs a contract. So if I'm boutique A and Germania is boutique, if I'm manufacturer A, I make these red sweaters, and Germania is the store. When she orders these red sweaters, guess what? She signs a contract that says, you know what? August 20th, you're going to get 7,000 red sweaters. And it's June. It's not even June. It's January. And Germania is like, yep, August 20th. I want that red sweater with that red lipstick. And you doing it, girl, with them red nails. I'm going to sell 7,000 of them sweaters. Well, guess what? August was real hot. And August 15th, Germania is still selling swimsuits. And on August 19th, she gets a notification from UPS that on the UPS truck, she's got 70 boxes of 100 red sweaters. And Germania is like, you know what? It's been a hot summer. It's going to be a real Indian fall. So it's not even going to get cold till November. I don't want 7,000 sweaters. I want 2,000. Well, what am I supposed to do? But guess what? Germania signed a contract. Somebody had to write that contract. So I'm saying, as an attorney, let's say that's the kind of business that you can start. Someone who writes contracts for small businesses. And now, guess what? You're using your law degree. You're using that skill that you paid for and you earned. And you're still in the fashion business. Because you don't have one Tamiko. You have 12 Tamikos. Because we know there's a boutique on every main street in every town across the country. There's at least one. So that's an example of another good, I'm giving away some good business ideas tonight. So it's another business idea, but again, that's how does that attorney get in front of the Tamikos? So again, focusing on that one dominant skill, what you're gonna do, and then marketing it is and it's a huge part. And self-marketing, people think it's easy. It's not easy. Some people are great in front of the camera when they don't have to teach or talk. Some people get in front of the camera and they're like, oh my gosh, and some people, and marketing now, you have to stand apart. Everybody goes live. It's like they're going at Chick-fil-A, they're going live. It's like, wait, is that the lady that works at Chick-fil-A? She got a podcast. You're like, well, how am I gonna stand out amidst all the clutter? Well, that's why it's so important not only to market yourself, but to be really clear about your skill and then market it and then find your community, right? Because you got to talk to the people that are speaking your language, so to speak. So that's what I mean when I say find your niche and market yourself. So I know we covered a lot tonight. It's a little after 8. I do want to open up for some questions. If anyone has any question they want to type, and we'll like unmute. There's enough of us where it's still intimate and we can still talk. And if anyone has any questions for me, we can go on for like another 15 minutes. But I hope you guys got something out of this. There's still so much more here. I am actually launching a course. I'm launching a 4-week course. It's 4 modules, and it's actually a deeper, we're drilling down into what we talked about tonight, right? So under research the industry, I gave you 5 things to do. That was what we spent the bulk of the first hour talking about. And also part of that was like buy the book, Careers in the Industry, because you want to know what careers there are to begin with. And then you can figure out, oh, I like this one. Oh, I can fit this one. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I like this. And then do some research. We talked about, branding and just the whole concept of branding and marketing. We talked about just a life transformed, right? And then we also talked about like finding your niche. In my course, we will really, really get down to the nitty gritty. And what it is, it's a recorded course. It's 4 modules. You'll get a module a week, but you can do the course at your own pace, and you'll own it. So you can go back and revisit it, and it'll be not only the definitions, but the names and some resources of businesses within the sub-industries. It'll break the sub-industries down. We'll talk about branding, how to find your own personal voice, like how to find your own voice as your brand, and then how to communicate it, verbiage. There's scripts in there of like taglines and how to write pitch emails. We talk about how the business thinks. There's also a module on mindset shift. So just some things you need to do and can do, to help you not only motivate yourself, but then just like shift your mind to like how people think in the fashion industry and multidisciplinary thinking, but then also just like who do I need to be question, like what do I actually need to do? Because maybe there's 10 things I need to do, but maybe I can only do 3 now. So there's a little bit of strategizing exercises that you can do. And then there are action steps, right? And that's where I really teach you how to find your niche, find your community, find your audience, how to pitch people in your community, right? So how to pitch people either in like other bloggers, or like I said, if you are a sewer or a pattern maker, how to pitch production people, how to find a production manager or production management companies so you can find work. If you're an attorney, I have resources like store lists. So if your business is, I do want to start this consulting business. I have a database of over 10,000 stores, which I wouldn't dump on you, but we would sit and figure out what works specifically for you. So again, it's a 4-course module. I'm taking on 5 clients because there is a personal, there's a lot of hands-on, especially in the beginning and also in the end. And so again, it's 4 courses. It's $297. I will put up a landing page and I'll email everyone. And if you have any questions, but I'm really excited about it. I'm also going to do some marketing on it. It was something that I've been thinking about doing, and literally everyone has told me I need to do it. And I'm not even, listen, I'm not here to like brag on myself, but I do know a lot of people in the business. Everyone's like, why aren't you? You need to, and you need to sell it, and you know so much, and da-da-da. And I really sat on this for a long time. But today, I had a mindset, well, not today, but recently, I had a mindset shift. And really, it was a spiritual shift. And it reminded me that, you know, my education and my experiences are here so I can serve. And when I think about it that way, I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't get to keep it to myself. I don't get to do what I've done and be in the rooms that I've been in and then just keep going. You know what? I'm here to share it. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to share these talents. I'm supposed to, like, not put my light under, you know, under the table. So, without getting too much into my own, like, mindset stuff, which actually is kind of good because it shows you I'm also on the journey. So this is not something I'm like, that's over here for me. This is something that's, like, really personal. So I'm excited to launch this, and I'll send you guys all via email, not tomorrow, but within the next week, the breakdown about the course. But tonight you will get the how to get into the fashion industry PDF, and it'll be all the things we talked about. And once you go through it and you'll review some of the things we talked about, it'll jog your memory if you did or didn't take notes. But again, I hope you guys got something out of it. And I'd love to, like, open up the room. And does anyone have any questions or comments, ideas? Who's that? Uh-oh. Somebody was talking. Anybody?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing, and everything that you presented tonight was really good, and it really gave me a lot to think about.
Thank you. Wait, who is that?
It's Jameer.
Jameer, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Aw. Did you, I mean, good, because that's what I want. And it's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, I woke up and I started a fashion industry. It's a very business industry, linear driven in that sense. You know, the foundation is definitely business, even though it's so creative. But I'm so glad that you joined.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your gifts and talents with us. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you for logging on, and thank you for, like, sharing your time, because I know it's valuable. So I appreciate everyone who's on here.
So for me, Tamiko, I ordered your book, and I'm really looking forward to receiving it.
Thank you so much.
I'm just assuming everything you discussed tonight is in your book, and probably a lot more. Is that correct?
So the book is a glossary guide to the jobs in the industry.
Okay.
My sub-industry. The PDF, the ebook you'll get via email, is everything I discussed tonight and even more. There's a lot in the self-assessment part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the self-assessment part is, you know, I really get down to the nitty-gritty with, like, am I creative? Am I on time?
Mm-hmm.
Am I a morning person? Do I work well? Do I work better when I have, you know, a tight deadline? Am I better the day before? Or do I need 6 weeks? You know, it really gets down to, because those are, again, no judgment, but those are the real questions you need to know when you're making these decisions.
Absolutely.
Especially at this point in life. You know what I mean? Because when we don't have the time to figure it out now. It's like, oh yeah, I did that for a year and a half. It's like, where do we want to be in 18 months? That's the question. It's like, okay, you know what? Where do I want to be in 14 months? Not 5 years. That luxury is gone. It's just a different time. So, you know, we want to, like, really start getting to the, like I said, to the meat and potatoes. Like, I'm not a morning person. I'm not going to do well with that. You know, or I don't like talking to people. So I might not be the best. I might not be good at customer facing, but behind the scenes, maybe I should be back at the house, because behind the scenes is where I excel. Again, just being honest, but being okay with it too. You know, so yeah, and I talk about, like I said, the self-assessment. And then in the course I'm doing, there's some self-assessment tests, like real self-assessment. Like I said, anyone with an HR background will really appreciate them. Like, to the point where you're just like, do I really have to hold this mirror up to myself? But yeah, you do. You do. So, and that's why I like the way I'm doing it with the modules, because you can do it over your own, you can do it at your own pace. Like, I just finished I just finished the audiobook, Taming Your Gremlin. It's amazing. It's amazing. But what I loved about it, and why I wanted to do the modules the way I did was that it let me go back and do it at my own pace. And it was like, oh, ouch. Okay, I'm gonna sit with that for a day and a half. Then I'll go back and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that exercise now because, oh, okay, you know what? I really did think I was prompt. But you know what? Always being 20 minutes late is not on time. And I'm making a joke, but a lot of times people think that. You're like, oh, you know what? No, I'm always on time. And you're like, you're not. Wait a minute. We all know somebody like that. And she's like, I'm not like, you're like, you're always like, they're like, no, I'm not. And you're like, but you are. So again, I'm making joke of it and I'm making light of it. But there's, again, that self-actualization, realization, assessment to know, okay, you know what? This is the truth of who I am. Yep. Once you know the truth of who you are, then you know where you best fit. Because you can't fit nowhere being a lie.
Well, thank you so much. It's been informative, and I'm glad that I logged on to your webinar, Tamiko, and I'm really looking forward to receiving your book. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Anybody else? Hi.
Hi, it's Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. Oh wait, I think wait, let me unmute. You have to forgive my.
Okay, I'm back, I think.
Okay. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for sharing all of that wonderful information. It's so much. My head is so full right now.
Okay.
I did take notes, and I look forward to seeing the PDF because I'm going to get right into my research and looking forward to getting into it and getting started.
Good.
But I just think it's really great that you decided to share your information and share your experience and your knowledge with us. I think that's a terrific thing. So
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time. And again, like I said, I know it's a lot. What we went over tonight is a lot. Once you get the PDF, it'll be like, oh, okay. You'll see it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do slides tonight because I wanted it to be personal for two reasons. One, I wanted you guys to like see me and feel my energy as opposed to like reading the slides. And two, this is the reason why I'm doing it, because fashion for me, always for everybody, feels like it's way over there. And I felt like if I did slides, blah, 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 I wanted it to feel casual and to feel accessible.
Oh, and I also wanted to say I love the lip color, the nails, and the sweater.
Thank you.
You wearing it.
Thank you. I'm also one of my revenue streams is I'm a parts model, so I do a lot of hair modeling.
Love it. Love the ring too.
Thank you. Actually, it was a client. I used to be her marketing director. See, it all ties in. Let me tell you, I got receipts, girl. I got receipts. Thank you so much. And you guys will all get the email tonight. I really appreciate you. Uh-oh, do we have anyone else?
Hey, Tamiko.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm actually on this webinar on behalf of my daughter because I heard you on the radio maybe last week.
Yeah.
I was excited for her. She's 15.
Uh-huh.
She's an aspiring model.
I love it.
And she originally thought, oh, I'm just going to walk the runway and this is what modeling is all about. But 2 years ago, I took her, we signed up for Baltimore Fashion Week, and I made both my daughters do production so that they could
Good.
the long hours.
Good.
First, before you think you're just going to
yes.
You can walk the runway.
Yes.
So listening, and she was taking notes, but she's like, this is for old people, mommy.
Uh-oh.
And I know there's a lot of nuggets that you can get